Good afternoon. I'm Karen McDonald, and I'm the Oakland County prosecutor. I appreciate you joining me on this sad day as our community processes the tragedy at Oxford High School yesterday. I'm going to confirm the name of the suspect this one time only during this press conference as Ethan Crumbley, age 15. We want to keep our focus on the victims of this horrific tragedy, and those are the names you will hear today. I want to also extend my deepest gratitude to the first responders who arrived on this scene at Oxford High School yesterday. Thank you to the deputies from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department who reacted swiftly and bravely to apprehend the suspect, preventing even more tragedy. I've also been working closely with the Oakland County Sheriff, Mike Bouchard, and his team to gather all information available related to this case. I also want to thank the Governor Whitmer, the Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel, and our County Executive David Coulter for their support. We have watched school shootings unfold in communities across this country for far too long. Sadly, the national spotlight is shining today on our community, Oxford and Oakland County, as we face this tragedy together. This has touched all of us so deeply as a community and on a personal level, as we look at our own families and imagine the unthinkable hitting home. I want to express my deepest condolences to the families, friends, and loved ones of the victims. Hannah St. Juliana, Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, and Justin Schilling. I have had an opportunity to speak to two of those fathers and intend to speak to the other two very soon. We can all agree that no parent, no loved one, no friend should ever have to face the loss and grief you are experiencing right now. I also ask you to join me in praying for those still fighting to recover from the injuries sustained as part of yesterday's attack. Today is the start of the legal process. When we begin to gather and review all of the facts, when we begin to put together a full timeline of events, it will take time, but the victims and their families and the entire community need and deserve those answers. There are some facts we already know. Based on the investigation so far, I am charging the young man who took the gun into that school and shot Hannah St. Juliana, age 14, a volleyball player and a basketball player, and her father asked me to tell you that she was one of the happiest and most joyful kids. Madison Baldwin, age 17, a talented artist and big sister. Tate Meyer, a junior football player and honor student. Mr. Meyer asked me when I spoke to him if I had children, and I said that I did, and that I would treat this case like these are my own children. Justin Schilling, age 15, co-captain of the Oxford bowling team and a golfer. We are charging this individual with 1 count of terrorism causing death, 4 counts of first-degree murder, 7 counts of assault with intent to murder, and 12 counts of possession of a firearm and the commission of a felony. When the shooting started yesterday, the students and teachers and staff in the school had to act quickly to save their own lives. Law enforcement and all of the first responders had to act quickly to prevent more lives from being lost and to get help for those who have been shot. Last night and this morning, we had to act quickly to review the evidence that has already been gathered and issue these initial charges. Going forward from today, the process becomes more methodical. As the sheriff said last night, there is a lot of evidence still to be collected. There are important facts still to be gathered. The process will take time. The investigators and my office will pore through all of those facts. They will make sure that we have left no stone unturned to get to the answers to all of your questions, our questions about how and why this happened. So today is only beginning, and it's possible there could be additional charges issued very soon when that investigation is reviewed and complete. We are in close contact with the investigators and the sheriff. Please understand that I cannot and they cannot disclose any details or evidence, that could compromise our case. I will not do that to the victims of these, the families of these victims and our community, and this needs to be our focus. We are ethically bound not to reveal those details. I want to explain why we are charging this suspect as an adult in this case. First, the seriousness of the crime this person committed under Michigan law. There are crimes that the legislature has said are so serious that a person who commits them can automatically be charged as an adult. First-degree murder is the most serious of all those crimes. Second, there are facts leading up in the shooting that suggest this was not just an impulsive act. Those facts are not appropriate for discussion right now because it could affect the prosecution of this case. Lastly, charging this person as an adult is necessary to achieve justice and protect the public. Any other option would put all of us at risk of this person because they could be released and still a threat. My job is to protect our community from people who commit these kinds of crimes, and that's what I'm going to do. Let me explain the next steps. A short time ago, these charges were issued, and law enforcement is swearing to these charges currently. The suspect will be arraigned later this afternoon. To prevent further tragedies like the one we witnessed yesterday and at large, we have got to address responsible gun ownership in this country and in Oakland County. Responsible gun ownership, including the security of a gun, is an absolute imperative to protect our community today and in the future, and those who do not do that should be and will be held accountable. Kids deserve better. Parents deserve better. Teachers deserve better. We have to do better. And I'm committed to seeking justice for the victims of the Oxford High School shooting and all Oakland County kids who face violence. It's my fervent hope that this will be the last time we experience an incident like this happen in Oakland County or anywhere. I'm committed to doing my part to ensure we honor the lives of those lost, those taken, by pursuing this case with the full weight of this office. And now I'll take questions.
You say that this wasn't an impulsive act, but you don't want to talk about it. I mean, don't you owe some explanation to folks about what that is? And I mean, we've been asking about that, the community's been asking about that. There's got to be something you can give us in terms of what that impulsive act is. I understand you have a whole prosecution to do, but there's a way to do that. And I think given everything with this case, I think folks are owed some kind of an explanation as to what led up to this.
I have a professional ethical duty not to disclose facts that will jeopardize the prosecution of the case or threaten a fair trial, which would be the absolute worst thing for the victims of this shooting. Second, we've charged 4 counts of first-degree murder, which requires premeditation. And I am absolutely sure, after reviewing the evidence, that it isn't even a close call. It was absolutely premeditated.
And what about the father? Is he under investigation? Is he facing any potential charges? To talk about responsible gun ownership.
We are considering charges against both parents, and we will be making a decision swiftly.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Could you spell the name of Mr. Crumbly for us so we all have it right? And also, could you talk about the arraignment?
We'll be passing out the information, so you could have that name. I really don't want to mention the name anymore. I want the focus to be on the victims of this crime.
Can you share at all about questions, appreciating what you've just said that you can't delve deeply, but can you offer any clarity in regard to social media postings allegedly by this individual and whether they were authentic, not, or is that part of what you're talking about with premeditation?
I can say that there is a mountain of digital evidence, videotape, social media, all digital evidence possible, and we have reviewed it, and we are confident that we can show it was premeditation.
Were the victims targeted, or does it appear to be random at this point?
I can't comment on that.
The premeditation, is there a time period you can give us at least of when you think he started planning this?
Well before the incident.
Days, weeks? I mean, the gun was purchased 4 days before.
Well before the incident.
Thank you.
Yes.
Just some question about how.
Hold on a second. Go
Can you
ahead.
talk about what you found inside his home when you were searching it?
A search warrant was executed, and I cannot comment on what was discovered.
Can you
Yes.
talk about the terrorism charge and how someone even gets charged with that?
Yes, I'd love to. It's not a typical charge, but when we sat down and talked about the charges that were applicable in this case, the children that I have just listed and those that were injured, they're the victims in the first-degree murder charges and the assault with intent to murder. But what about all these other children? What about all the children who ran, screaming, hiding under desks? What about all the children at home right now who can't eat and can't sleep and can't imagine a world where they could ever foot back in that school? Those are victims too, and so are their families, and so is the community. And the charge of terrorism reflects that.
Interactions with the parents, with the suspect's parents, how have those been right now?
Difficult. Very difficult. This is unspeakable. We send our kids to school. We think that they're going to be safe. The only thing that I can do as the prosecutor is ensure that I will do everything I can to prosecute this case and pursue justice for these victims, but also to speak out and say that we need better gun laws.
Did the shooter or the parents have any prior record?
I can't comment on that.
To verify, he's facing life in prison because he's being charged as an adult, is that correct?
That is correct.
Sorry again. In terms of, is there anything that was missed by the school? Are you investigating anything like that, whether or not there were any warnings? There's been a lot of talk of this. Have you found anything so far in your investigation?
You know, my focus isn't on what the school did wrong or right. My focus is on the victims in this case. I think, as stated yesterday and evening, that the response was executed perfectly. Yet 4 children were killed and multiple injuries occurred, which suggests that we really can't train ourselves out of this tragedy. We have to address the fact that people should be held accountable who own guns and are not responsible.
Prosecutor, was he
Hold on, just one moment, please. Just one moment, please. Go ahead.
You mentioned stronger gun laws. Are you hoping that this would be a renewal of that conversation, at least here in the state of Michigan, when it comes to stronger gun laws?
If the incident yesterday, with 4 children being murdered and multiple kids being injured, is not enough to revisit our gun laws, I don't know what is. I'm a parent. There are parents here. There are parents listening. We need to make sure and want to know that when we send our kid to school, they're safe. And responsible gun ownership is imperative. It's critical.
Prosecutor, did the boy take the gun, or was he given the gun illegally?
He had possession of the gun. I can't comment any further.
Can we have a name of a defense counsel on the record for the defendant at this point?
I do not.
Can we get clarification on the victim, Justin Schilling? Was he 15 or 17?
Justin Schilling was 15, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm accurate. Yes, he was.
15.
Yes.
Do you have a time for the arraignment this afternoon?
It should be in the next couple hours. Yes.
Is there any concern in terms of prosecuting this individual with his mental stability and previous treatments and conditions that he may have gone through before?
We have no reason to be concerned about that based on what we know. Yes.
When you talk about responsible guns, what in this case was done wrong? I mean, it seems that, as the sheriff said, the father walked in, purchased this weapon. What was done wrong in this case?
Shortly, we will be announcing whether or not there will be further charges. Those questions will be answered at that time. However, we know that owning a gun means securing it properly and locking it and keeping the ammunition separate and not allowing access to other individuals, particularly minors. We know that, and we have to hold individuals accountable who don't do that.
From everything you've seen, is there anything that you can say about potential or possible motive in this case?
I can't state right now. I can't comment on it.
Forgive the redundancy, but can you clarify at all in regard to the randomness of it or the targeting of it, or is that information you can't share in regard to whether this was a spontaneous and these victims were just there at the wrong time, or whether they were individually sought out?
I can tell you that he's charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder, which require us to prove premeditation, and it was done, as you know, in a school hallway. So that's all I can say.
But the hypothetical could be he came to kill somebody that day, premeditating, but not necessarily knowing who. In specificity of the victims, was he looking to kill them, does it appear, or you don't know?
I can't comment on it, and I want to make sure that everyone understands why. It is not that I don't want the public to know. I'm a parent, I'm a member of the community. I would want to know too. But we as prosecutors are ethically bound to not reveal any statements that could jeopardize the prosecution of the case and providing a fair trial. Because if that happened, that would be tragic for the families of these victims.
Prosecutor, as you stand up here today and you're taking questions in real time, how do you decide what crosses that line of what would affect the trial?
I don't have to decide it. The United States Supreme Court has decided it, and it is that we should not make a statement about the defendant or the evidence that could prejudice a fair trial.
Were there any kind of writings that the suspect left behind that you found?
There is a mountain of evidence, and I can't comment on the exact.
Prosecutor, you've mentioned several times today that you're a parent. This is obviously very emotional for this community. This is your community. What message are you sending with these specific charges?
That we have to do better. How many times does this have to happen? How many times? Everyone knows we have become desensitized to school shootings, and I think about those parents who said goodbye to their children on their way to school, not ever contemplating that they wouldn't be safe there. They were not engaging in any risky behavior. They were innocent children who went to school. And so we're going to hold the people responsible accountable, and we're going to receive justice for these victims. And hopefully we're going to start a long-going conversation and move the needle on appropriate gun control.
You mentioned a mountain of digital evidence. A number of social media accounts that apparently seem to be linked to the shooter have been taken down. What's the cooperation like with those social media companies, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, to preserve that evidence provided to prosecutors as you're building your case?
We have digital evidence like that in almost every case now, and we and our investigators and law enforcement agencies are well equipped to preserve it and to investigate it and discover it.
Could you talk a little bit more about those conversations with families? Did those happen today? Were they tried via the phone? How did it take place?
Today on the phone. Thank you so much.
Thank you.